David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the Correctional Facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety.
For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations.
We are going to reconvene as the Board of Finance. So could I have a motion to temporary recess and convene as the Board of Finance?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Hamilton. We are now at the Board of Finance. I'd like to invite, I will, but I'm inviting our guests up so that they're ready. Can I have a call to order? I call to order. Can I have a roll call, please, Deputy?
Of course, Madam Chair.
County Clerk.
Commissioner Camille Bustamante?
Present.
Commissioner Justin Green?
Here.
Commissioner Hank Hughes?
Present.
Commissioner Anna Hamilton?
Here.
Chair Anna Hansen?
Present. So we have the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda from the Finance Committee, or everything's fine? Okay, so can I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Hughes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Welcome, County Treasurer Manzanares and Deputy County Treasurer Varela. Here, we're on to your report, the second half. So take it away.
Buenas tardes, Chair Hansen and Commissioners. Good afternoon. Today's Santa Fe County Treasurer's update will start with our rising Fed fund rates and a possible halt, inverted yield curve, the 1-year to the 5-year spread, the 23 property tax update, and our property tax outreach program, short PTOP, in effect in many locations. So with taxing updates, one of the things that we found with this year's tax season that we had tax bills go out fine, and staffing shortages at Postal Service has had us in constant communication with them to make sure that what we get from our property taxpayers is getting to our lockbox. And so that's been a very diligent, diligency we've had in the office. To date, we've had a lot of walk-ins. We have a lot of individuals paying in full, so I feel like it's already successful. We've had online payments, and so just tracking the bigger scene of how this is going to look for our budget, we're doing that. So we also have our property tax outreach program that has also received a positive response, as it does every year. Today we're in La Cienega, we've been out in Edgewood and El Dorado, and we have our usuals, our seniors that enjoy that program a lot. So that is the update for our Treasurer's Office. And so moving on. Okay, our fiscal agent balance. We have 36 accounts at $23,867,564.04 at 35 basis points. Portfolio balances, we have a total of $428,295,517.48. And with our other holdings, we have 3 holdings at Alley&B Studios, Local CDs, and BNY Mellon, totaling $12,224,726.57. And we have our yearly drawdown that we received at approximately $260,000. So our grand total of all our holdings, $440,520,244.05. Total with bank accounts, $464,387,808.09. All right, moving on to our earnings. At our Alley&B Studio CD, we have 200 basis points, 2.5%. Our FICAs, 40 basis points, 0.4%. UBS is at 455 basis points, 4.55%. Wealth, 522 to 525 basis points. And investments, 50 to 600 basis points. So our yield income, $16,287,638.55. For our end-of-year earnings, considerably higher than other years. And as we move to the next piece of our presentation for the Board of Finance, Deputy Treasurer will share some of the why and what the inflation is doing.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Good afternoon, Chair Hansen and members of the Commission. We'll start off here with the inflation slide here. This is what they call a G10 slide. It's an inflation monitor. This is for last month. We haven't gotten the new one yet. But as you can see, this was at November 13th. We're still at the headline inflation is at 3.7, and the actual or the sticky inflation or core is otherwise known as 3.4. The 3.4, the core inflation is always the hardest to come down. Once it gets up, it's very hard to come down. And what's in that basket of the core is services, hospital services, housing, ambulance, all those kinds of services are tranched in that one core portfolio or core inflation. So that's to get down from that area is going to be the hard part, and that's what the feds have been trouble trying to lasso the last year. This next slide here gives you the predicted rate hikes or cuts for next month, the next month's Fed meeting. As you can see, there's only a 9.5% chance that they will increase the rates. Now, this was done like November 10th. I got this off of Bloomberg. Then this comes out the following day. U.S. inflation broadly slows. Bets on more Fed hike. So they're thinking that the Feds aren't going to do any more rate hikes. Based on this map here, they're looking at the different areas that the inflation has come down on. Well, if you really look at it, the circled areas are the areas with the least inflation, and believe it or not, what they call the Rust Belt, which is the pink area there, is at 2.9. The rest of the country is still high above at the 3.3 to 4% inflation rate. Looking at the CPI, you look at in October it went down slightly, and there was a big news about that but it hence went back up. So they're looking now. They came out on TV, actually on Bloomberg Monday, and said the rates are still going to be high, and there could be a probably chance that they won't raise them next month, now in December, but maybe in January at the next Fed Fund meeting. So this is the dot plot. What this does is this is the Fed governor's bets on what the inflation is going to be. I mean, the interest rates are going to be like for the following year. So they're saying that at the end of the year it's going to end at a little bit over 550, that's where it's pretty much at. Next year, if you look at the green, they're saying that it's going to be around just a little bit over 5%, and the following year below 4. I'm thinking the way that things are going, it's going to pretty much follow the white line, which is the Fed Fund future rates. I don't think there's going to be too much cutting back on interest rates next year. How does that affect the county? Well, it's a good thing on our investment side portfolio. Bad for people trying to get homes or cars because it puts them in a whole different situation. I'll go over that in a minute. But this is what the yield curve looked like as of 11/7 of this year compared to last year. So the green shows that we're pretty much at a above 5% for the year. It starts to invert from a year to 5 years, and what that is, it's a lot of uncertainty. It's like a lot of investors aren't sure how to invest, and they're looking for more stability in order to lift that curve. Right now, there's not predictability at all. There's a lot of factors in there, like the student loan payback. We don't know how that's going to affect. We don't know how these different wars that are going on over Europe is going to affect. So all those come into play. The petroleum has gone down a lot, which I'm pretty sure you see that at the pump. So they're thinking that the oil cartel is going to be slowing down production, so that'll raise up the barrel rate. Right now, it went from $100 or near $100. Now it's like at $72 a barrel. So it's gone down a lot within the last month. So you could see that with these two graphs here, that they almost kiss each other at the 3-year mark, and so what this means for the county is that we can still get higher interest rates up to 4 years. This next slide here is with the old Lehman Brothers ticker, which is actually the fixed income. So it's all the fixed income put into one. So you can see the yield to worst is at 5.30 or 5% at the worst that you could get on a fixed income. The problem with that is this next slide here. Let's see over here. This is the 30-year mortgage. This was the day after the Fed said that they were going to increase it. It dropped from almost over 8% that you're paying on a 30-year mortgage to 7.79. Again, how does this affect the county? Well, people aren't going out for mortgages now. From this next slide, you see that the new family home sales has gone down. The existing home sales have gone down, and also this next one is the auto inventory to the home inventory, where it's pretty much down. So as we invest in fixed income as a county, we can't find that many investment paper because there's not many people going out for mortgages again. So in the old days, like last year, we could get 3%, and there would be a large tranche. You could find $200 million of one fixed income. Now we're lucky to find a tranche of $5 million. So that means that a lot of people aren't going to get either refinances or new homes. And when you see refinances, it's usually for a need that they rather pay this lower rate than 29% on their credit card. So this is what's causing these smaller tranches. So we're challenged to find what we can invest in. So, for example, we just did a new general obligation bond 23. 99% of that is all in treasuries because that's what's available right now. And the difference between a treasury and a fixed income was a spread about 30 basis points. So they were higher above the treasury, but they're still safe investments. The projected interest rates here on the green dots, we've been investing where the feds are pretty much going to be doing either a rate hike or a rate cut. And the green and blue shows where we can anchor in longer rates for a duration of 3 to 5 years and still getting that high interest rates. Drawbacks on a lot of this stuff is small businesses. They're having a lot of trouble because of the credit crunch getting loans. So they're having to find different hoops to jump through to get to that. Again, this ticker has a lot that we do. This is how we invest in the fixed incomes when the spike is low. That's when we invest in because usually you can find the bond at a cheaper price. We've been finding what we small. They look like cheaper coupons, but actually the yield to maturity is quite high because we're not paying $100 for the security. We're paying about $99, $98, even up to $96. So we get that extra gives it a higher yield to maturity. Before I yield for the treasurer, I yield for any questions.
Any questions from the board? Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you. I should know this, but I think you showed $16 million in income from our investments. Is that right? Does that just go into the general fund, or is that restricted to various types of expenditure based on where the money was made from?
Chair Hansen, Commissioner Hughes, that's a good question. It's all of the investments across the board. Each operational account, core account, and general obligation funds have earned that $16 million projected year to date.
Okay, so it goes back into the fund where the money was generated from. Like if it was in the housing fund, then we spend it on housing.
Correct, and there's we have a couple of housing funds, and it goes back to the housing fund. So they've gotten. I know one of them matured around March, and it got about $200,000 just in interest for like 9 months, which is really good. So it stayed in the housing fund.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Treasurer and Deputy Treasurer. So you mentioned that the $16 million was a larger return than normal. That's obvious because rates are much higher, but also inflation's much higher. And so I guess what is that cost of money, right? What is that delta between, inflation's eating away at the value of this, but we've made a return, which is the goal. You're trying to keep the delta as high as possible. Do you track that delta? Do you have a way of reporting that to us to say, look, inflation's high, it's eating 5% a year, but you all are getting a return of 6%, so the delta is 1%. So you're showing how you're staying ahead of inflation or not, right? Because you can't get good investments.
Well, we don't see that. Thank you, Commissioner. We don't see that that part where it's with the expense part. We're just seeing with the income coming in. But however, I do know in 2020 and 21, a lot of projects were halted because the inflation was so high that they were getting project prices estimates, and by the time they got approved through the commission, the prices had changed. And that's going to happen up to probably February, where I don't think that for example, home improvement stuff is going to go down substantially because there's not much building going on. So I think we would have to do something between finance to find out what they're paying to what we're actually earning.
Okay, I mean, I was thinking of it in terms of, it's not necessarily the cost our inflation, the true impact at Public Works or wherever we're actually spending the money, but more of just here's what the Fed is saying or the federal governments are saying is inflation, and you're beating inflation by X points. And I would think that that would be one of your goals in the investment group, is to say, they report inflation at 3.5%, and guess what? We're getting 4.5% in our return. So as long as we're ahead of things, we're ahead of things. So anyway, I would love to be able to see that, to sort of track that as a metric, to show as a performance metric, is inflation's here, we're beating inflation, or we're not, right? Sometimes investments don't work. Two more questions, if I may. So one, we discussed this a couple weeks ago, about probably a month ago, about getting a new bank to do our sort of transactional accounts. And with $400 million sitting in the bank, I'm wondering, and Leandro's here, and he tried to school me a little bit on this, and so thank you, Leandro, but I still am concerned about how we can help our local banks. And I understand that, yes, they are maybe not in a position to do this, but in a way, I think that if we want to try to help them capitalize on this opportunity, that we start working with them, right? Not necessarily investing in them, but working with them and saying, if you didn't win because of this, but if you did this and you kept your balances here or your rates low, whatever the things that made us not choose them, if we were actually informative to them and said, if you only did this, we would put our money with you, that it might give them an opportunity to better themselves and be a better bank. And then once we're putting $25 million into them, they'll be an even better bank, right? It's like how to make our local banks sort of compete without saying, just because you didn't win, we're going with a national bank. It's just going to kill our local banks at the end of the day. So there's a way that we can help them. And so I don't necessarily need an answer to say why we're not doing it, but just to say, can we work with them in a way to inform them on why they're not winning those bids?
That's a good question. For one, Treasurer and I still kept a bulk of that money, the investment money, is still staying here locally. It's at the Wealth Department at First National. So that didn't get moved over. I'm kind of with you. Sometimes big banks, they offer more, but we become a little fish in a big pond now, because sometimes you're not the big one that they pay attention to. So it's going to be interesting how things pan out through the.
Yeah, and I understand that half of our local banks aren't local anymore, but they're regional, and I think that there's an aspect to look at them in terms of, even if they're regional or even if they're national banks, ask for how much if we're putting money into you and you're going to earn this opportunity from us, how much are you reinvesting, not necessarily in Santa Fe County per se, but in Santa Fe County at a macro level? We are extending, you're putting in $20 million. Guess what? We put $100 million in loans in Santa Fe County. That could be one of those metrics that says, wow, these people are really investing in us. And so, there are banks out there that are here in presence, but are not making loans in Santa Fe County, right? And then there are banks that are local that don't have very many loans in Santa Fe County. So anyway, looking at our banks when we're screening who to put money into in a different way, to say, the bonus factor is how much are you reinvesting in our community, would be something that I would be happy to see, and to say, that's good. We're putting the money where people are valuing our opportunity here. And the last question I have, are we allowed to invest with the State Investment Council?
Pardon me?
Are we allowed to invest with the state SIC, the State Investment Council, the state's sovereign wealth fund? I know that some communities are doing it, but there's like the severance payments and funds and stuff like that, the education funds, and I know that some larger communities are putting their money in that, but I don't know if we can or want to.
That's a very good question, Commissioner. The reason we can't, the reason we can't invest in them because of what we're allowed to invest in and what they invest in are two different things. So you have to be, for instance, they can invest more into corporates, which we can't, annuities, we can't. So that's the reason that we can't, but we can invest in the LGIP, which former commissioners have not wanted to, because during the Lehman Brothers fiasco, we lost close to $1 million, which we got about 200,000 of that back. So that's a good question. That's the only reason that keeps us from working in the State Investment Council.
Because I know that they're working for us, right? It's one of the biggest sovereign wealth funds in the country, in the world, actually. And there's some pretty smart chaps over there.
They're very smart over there. And they pretty much do what I do constantly every minute of the day. I just have opportunities to do it like 3 hours of the day.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Commissioner Hughes?
I just forgot to say thank you for taking good care of our money and the good job that you both do and your whole staff. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to the treasurer now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Madam Chair, members of the commission, I appreciate the questions, and I think to circle back to yours, Commissioner Green, I'd like to explore your first question more. And on the second, I agree with you. I think there's value in our local banks as well. Okay, so for our 6-month investment strategy, we would like to invest and reinvest in short-term treasuries, 1 month to 1.5 year window. Invest in coupons with sensible cash flow when available. Invest in Supras, CDs, and GSCs with sensible spreads over the treasury as fixed income are fading. And anchor high interest rates by purchasing bullets to maintain a higher interest rate in the lower interest environments. And we have discussed this at length at our investment committee meetings, and if there are any questions about our strategy, we yield for questions. This is our proposed for the next 6 months.
Are there questions, Commissioner Hughes?
Mostly just a comment, because I think this is a really sensible strategy for this year. And I'd just like to encourage us to always look at the local government investment fund through the treasurer's office, the state treasurer, when we can't make 5% on treasury bonds anymore. But maybe that's going to be that might be a long time away.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I think one of the initiatives we've taken on in the treasurer's office is to work closely with the housing staff, and we stay in constant communication with. We should meet about this to maybe have something internal that we can do. So we have explored white papers and seeing how we can move. We'll be patient as that moves forward, and we're hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yes, thank you. And if
okay, so I want to. Are there any other questions about this 6-month investment strategy? Can I have a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I motion to approve the strategy that's been presented by the Treasurer's Office.
And I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Bustamante and a second from Commissioner Hughes. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations. Okay. Then we'll go on. That's it. We have on the agenda, it says request approval of amendments to the Santa Fe County investment policy. Did you provide that?
It's in the packet.
I did. Did I miss that?
No, we need to approve the amendments to the investment policy. Is it on the agenda?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Commissioner, yes, it is. And it was provided in the packet.
Yeah, we have it.
You have it? Okay.
Okay.
This, Madam Chair, this being an action item, if it's approved, we would also need a motion to approve that.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the new amendment policy, or the new investment policy.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you very much for all your work, and thank you for coming and presenting to us. Commissioner Green and Commissioner Bustamante, you're always welcome to come to the Finance Committee meeting where you can have a longer discussion. And I think we all believe in supporting our local banks, but sometimes the local banks can't provide the services that we need for a county. And so I think we do invest in the local banks when we can and where we can. Like I know that we buy CDs locally, so there's a lot of ways that we do interact with our local banks because we all care about keeping our banks local and keeping them healthy.
Madam Chair, member of the commission, thank you, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your good work.
Okay, next we will go on to, we need to adjourn
Madam
and
Chair.
reconvene.
A motion to adjourn and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
A second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Bustamante, a second from Commissioner Green. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, we are back to approval of the meeting minutes. Request approval of October 31st, 2023 Board of County Commission meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the October 31st, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Hughes, a second from Commissioner Hamilton. Under discussion, do I have any changes or anything? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, consideration of proclamations and resolutions, etc. There is nothing there under item 4. Under item 5, consent agenda, resolution authorizing holidays, closing of county offices, and 2024 Santa Fe County employees calendar. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Under discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to 6 appointments and reappointments. There are none.
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes, I need one of those numbers.
Yes, we do. Item 5A is resolution number 2023-116.
Okay, thank you. We're now on item 7. Request approval to utilize existing cooperative educational service contract to enter into agreement with Mosen Corbin to provide engineering, design, construction service to redirect flow entering the county Abajo lift station to the county water reclamation facility for a total compensation of $586,580 exclusive of New Mexico GRT and delegation of signature authority to the county manager to sign the agreement and the purchase order for engineering. Public Works, Paul Choman, welcome.
You need to go green. You need to turn it on.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Chair, Commissioners, this is the last segment of a planned backbone in SDA 1. It's critical infrastructure that the county needs for the wastewater program. It will redirect flow from the current location going to the Paseo Real city facility to the county water reclamation facility, aka the Quell plant.
Are there any questions from the board?
No, but Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, under discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for your support. Appreciate it.
Okay, next we'll go on to item B. We are on B7, which is request acceptance of Transportation Project Fund Grant LP 50048 from the State of New Mexico Department of Transportation for Los Pinos Road and Bridge construction in the amount of $1,140 or $1,140,000. Sorry about that. Welcome, Mr. Snyder.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
What's before you this evening or this afternoon is Santa Fe County's been awarded a $1,140,000 transportation project fund grant, similar to what we brought forward last year to finish off the funding for Northeast-Southeast Connector. This funding cycle, in working with our Santa Fe MPO and NMDOT, there was less funding available than the $4 million we got last year, but we still got a decent amount of funding this year. And this project funding we're considering as gap funding to complete the project for the Los Pinos Road Bridge construction. If you recall, last year during the legislative cycle, we made a request for $1 million, and we got $50,000 through that cycle. This additional funding, in addition to the existing funding we have in place of about $1.85 million, we believe will get us to the point where we have enough funding for a construction manager and contractor. And we are on schedule to put this out to bid this winter, 2024, begin construction in spring, summer of 2024, and complete in the fall, winter of 2024. And we received this TPF funding grant in October, and we need to accept this by the end of November so that we don't run the risk of NMDOT pulling these funds. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioner Bustamante, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate the time and effort that's been taken to pull this together. I have seen many a floating car through this particular area. I know that there are people who are looking forward to this moving forward, so thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? Commissioner Green?
Just as an acknowledgement, thank you for putting things on a map and visually identifying these things, so thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bustamante, would you like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the request for the transportation project funds.
Second. Oh.
Okay, we have a item 7B. We have a motion by Commissioner Bustamante, a second by Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Next, we will go on to a resolution identifying the 2024 legislative capital outlay priorities. We have Leandro, and we have Hachi Miller, and I believe we have a new resolution also that is being handed out as we speak that we'll be going over.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm the first of maybe the next 6 of these, which are pretty similar, all legislative priorities. As we know, the legislature and governor are a significant source of funding for capital projects within the county and across the state. And with revenue estimates suggesting a significant amount of capital outlay dollars, we're coming to you with our legislative asks. Annually, the board adopts the county's Infrastructure and Capital Improvement Plan, or ICIP, for the next 5 years. We did that with resolution number 2023-088 back in August. And to help identify the additional projects, county staff solicited priority lists from each individual commissioners, which is our attached Exhibit B. And separately, county staff sought to identify projects that were county-wide in impact so as to potentially draw interest from multiple legislators, projects that were expensive, and projects that fit within categories of presumed interest to the governor and legislatures, such as affordable housing, public safety, and outdoor rec, tourism, transportation alternatives. And so besides the top 5 of our ICIP, we had put in a resolution a couple other projects based on the input that we got from the commissioners, as well as the other criteria I mentioned. And those additional projects were Nueva Acequia multifamily development infrastructure with $10 million ask, public housing upgrades at Camino de Jacobo, Valle Vista, and Santa Cruz housing communities, just over $12 million ask. Our P25 public safety radio project at $5.235 million ask. And the Santa Fe River Trail from Caja del Oro to Cottonwood Drive, a $10.5 million ask. And as well as those, we did just to now hand out the updated resolution to also include countywide sustainability projects at an ask of $8.921 million and improvements to roads countywide. This is kind of a catch-all for funding for anticipated shortfalls, any emergency maintenance and repairs, or any engineering services for future projects we may not have identified, and we're asking $10 million on that. And then we did also add or make some changes to the now therefore be it resolved, and I'll just go ahead and read it. Now therefore be it resolved that the county commissioners and county staff may individually or through its contract lobbyists also express support for the capital outlay request of other governmental entities for projects within the county that would advance the public health, safety, and welfare of the community and that are not inconsistent with the county's established policies. So I think I highlighted the changes to the resolution that was attached. We added those two projects and the changes in the therefore be it resolved. And I will stand for questions at this time.
If I could add, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I do also want to recognize and acknowledge that one of our contract lobbyists, Al Park, is available via WebEx. The additional projects that staff are recommending that we highlight as priorities in part grew out of our recent conversation with Al and Jason Weeks. Just relative to the amount of potential funding that may be available from the legislatures to ensure that we have adequate number of priority projects to to consume whatever money may be available due to increased revenue estimates and other reasons. The thing I would emphasize about asking the big dollar amounts, in addition to what's already been said, is that the amount of appropriations that are spread out amongst numerous projects, but that don't fully fund projects, is causing consistent problems throughout the system. You have all of these small appropriation and capital projects that are overwhelming the capacity of the Department of Finance and Administration and local government division just to administer the projects. So even though, and I'm not throwing shade on DFA, that's not my point. My point is the legislature hasn't increased its capacity in order to keep up with the volume of grant agreements that they're being asked to process and oversee. So even though the 2023 capital outlay projects were funded basically from cash, they weren't using bonds, we still haven't received grant agreements for several of our significant capital outlay appropriations, including the Agua Fria sewer project. So we're still waiting on the grant agreement from the state in several different instances. We are also having challenges in terms of having the state issue what they call notice of obligation of funds, which is their approval that, yes, we have this contract, we approve it, it's consistent with the appropriation, you can go forward and spend it with confidence. And again, that's not unique to Santa Fe County, but it's a challenge that I think all local governments are experiencing statewide. So asking for the money, again, in bigger chunks helps on that capacity side. It also helps on the capacity side with the county, because if we get capital outlay appropriations from the state in large dollar amounts for significant projects, there's a greater opportunity that we'll be able to timely obligate those funds and spend them down, which is a criteria that the legislature and the Legislative Finance Committee sometimes looks at as to, well, are you spending the money you're already getting? And simply put, having money spent out, even if it adds up to the same amount, but spread out over 13, 25 projects, but not enough money to fully fund anything. It's hard for us to meet that criteria in terms of obligating funds. So I just wanted to add, that additional context to support the idea of zeroing in on significant projects that, again, are countywide in impact, in addition to the 5 ICIP priorities that the board had previously identified in the hopes of having, number one, a consistent and concise lobbying message, but number two, hopefully helping the entire capital outlay process by having fewer but larger grant agreements and projects to manage from the state down to our own project staff. So again, thanks for indulging those additional words.
Thank you, Manager Schaefer. A question from the board. Commissioner Green.
Madam Chair, thank you very much, Leandro, and thank you, County Manager. I was out of town when a request went out to update this, and so I had a question about a couple things that, first off, a number of items appear to be things that have already been funded in the list that we had received. Things like the Espanola Pathways Shelter managed to get fully funded, even if it wasn't fully funded by us, by our ICIP request. They received the CASA Connect grant from the governor's office. And so, in theory, they don't need any more money, and congratulations to them, but they should be removed from our list. And so I would hope that we keep a fresh list going and recognize those other funding things for those third parties. The same thing for the opera. The opera got their $5 million last year, and I guess there's some funding gap because of some cost issues, but that's in further out years at this point, and God knows how those cost issues are going to come out if this project is 3, 4, 5 years out into the future. So I wonder if those, if people who have been fully funded are on this list, if our list is really that accurate. So I was concerned about that, and I didn't seem to get an answer in time before I left town, and so that was a reason why I didn't submit my priorities. And so I'm wondering, again, last year, the Rio and Medio open space restoration and flooding prevention, that is something that I think there's federal money for. We also put that on the list at the request of Representative Andrea Romero, and it didn't get funded, So, you snooze, you lose, right? If this was her priority, I think there are other priorities that we could be putting in my top priority. And so I'm wondering if I may put an edit to this and strike item number 3 and replace it with something in the same neighborhood for the same constituents with less of a pot of money to support it, which would be the Rio and Medio road widening project up on 592.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, I hear you on removing projects that were fully funded. I think at the time that we put this before you in August, Pathways wasn't sure, and they asked to stay on the list. The opera is fully funded, so I think we can safely ask them to not ask for any more, but I hear you. In terms of Rio and Medio, open space restoration and flooding prevention, that's $1 million ask from our open space department for improvements to the open space, not just from the flooding, but other projects that had been anticipated prior to the flooding. So the $1 million would still be useful for us to maintain or to achieve some of the goals that had been set out for that open space area. Definitely can look at the other project in regards to a change. I think it is on the ICIP. So the road widening.
Yes, sir. So in terms of currently, because of the flooding that has happened up in that area, the access to the open space up there is severely limited. And so I would hope that it's not so much, or it is inclusive of access improvements, because one of the issues up there is that while the open space is beautiful, the neighbors up there have major issues because there's no parking. right? And so they've closed the trailhead because there's no trail going up the mountain, and it's probably not going to be there for a few years, and God knows if we'll ever get that open again, one. Two, the neighbors up there, we need to work with the folks up there to figure out how to get a parking lot up there, because currently Rio and Medio just doesn't have a trailhead and parking, and it doesn't have a solution either at the community center or sidewalks to get residents up there and community members. So I find that, yes, this may be a necessary project, but shouldn't be necessarily our priority.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, I understand what you're saying. I will let you know that staff is still continuing to work with the community up there. In fact, I think Adeline Murphy's meeting with Ms. Morton later next week to talk about some ideas she has in regards to potential parking and things like that. So I understand what you're saying. I just let you know that staff is continuing to pursue the efforts that they had started before the flooding, is how they look at it, and this is the ask that had come from them. So.
And I know there's a resident up there that we were helping that I think that there's some solutions that we spoke about, but I don't know if you're pursuing them, so I'd love an update on that in the future. So. May I make an amendment, since this is our chance to do it? Is that something that you're not happy to entertain right now?
It's your list, so
That's what I thought.
we're happy to entertain any amendment. We started the process thinking that the ICIP priorities that the board had previously set, were firm, and that's why they were placed on there. But again, if the board would like to move in a different direction, that's the pleasure of the board. I probably would suggest in that event that we update the ICIP so that all of our documents are consistent, relevant to the top 5 projects. But that's housekeeping that we could do at a future meeting. So I hope that answers your question.
So what I would like to know is, the Rio Medio Open Space Restoration and Flooding Project seems to be something that staff is concerned about. I don't see staff here to speak to it. So I'm wondering if they're online, or if we could, I don't think open space is under Paul. They're under
Adeline.
It's our planning, Madam Chair, it's our planning group, and I do not know if they're online either. And they would be the appropriate to give you all the details of the work that they've done. We have a few plans that have been completed, and we're looking to try to implement the suggestions in those plans. And I think the $1 million doesn't even complete it. That just gets us quite a ways into the plan, but that wouldn't be all of it as well. There's more after that we would request.
Yeah.
This is always a tiresome question, and so I apologize ahead of time, but how long has the Rio and Medio project been? I mean, I assume it's gone, it's the process question. Had that one gone through the process, and is this road widening been a vetted project? I mean, how long has it
they're
been
both they're both on the ICIP list. It's just there's a secondary issue here, which is that while I do support both of them, don't get me wrong, but the fact that
you do what?
I do support both projects.
Yeah.
The fact that there is the potential for a broadband project and a Dig Once project to go up to Rio and Medio and Chupadero that would go along the road, that a road project doing it at the same time as a broadband project, again, is an opportunity to solve 2 problems with 1 solution.
So maybe, Mr. Snyder, you could address the Rio Medio road widening project? Is that what you were possibly asking Commissioner Hamilton also? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're both on. I mean, it's kind of a process.
Right.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, the Rio Medio road widening widening projects is still conceptual. There's no plans in place for planning or design of that. At this time, there's been a identified need for that, but that's still, until we would get some level of funding, we wouldn't initiate any planning effort on that. So it's still in the plan, it would be still in, I'll call it the planning stages.
So one of the things that, when I met with Senator Munoz, that he was very clear about is that he is looking for shovel-ready projects. Like, they don't want projects that are a couple of years out. They want to spend the money on shovel-ready projects. If this is still in the planning stages, I mean, how long, does it have any planning done?
Madam Chair, I do not believe that there's any planning that's been done on that. I don't represent the planning group, but we would be involved with presumably Brett Clavio and his team on that. Banner and I were just talking about this request is for $5.4 million. One of the first steps could be a preliminary engineering report, as similar to what we've done on other requests. I'd estimate, without knowing the details of the length and extremities of it, $75,000 to $100,000 for a preliminary engineering report to gauge what would need to be done for that next step.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm wondering if we could, I appreciate how staff, for item number 10, the countywide sustainability projects, combined two projects to get a bigger number. What if we were to combine the Rio Medio open space restoration and flooding prevention and just add and road widening, and then if we get enough money, we could do the preliminary engineering report. We could put them all in one, maybe up the dollar amount from $1 million to whatever we think is reasonable.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, if I could interject, that would be an approach. We were also attempting to provide potential funding for that initial phase of a variety of road projects through the $10 million catch-all that was added to the resolution, so that if those monies were not needed to fill unanticipated funding gaps or other emergencies, that could provide the money that Director Snyder mentioned to help take some of the various road projects, not just this, to that next phase of development. So I just made that, make that as an observation, as a way in which we were trying to address that need that has just been identified through this conversation.
So do you follow that, since this is still doesn't even have a PER, that we should add it to possibly the improvement to road and countywide funding for, unanticipated shortfalls planning? We could add in the word planning there, because it seems that if we could do a PER on the Rio Medio Road widening, we would be one step towards the funding.
Yep. I mean, I just looked at the dates that they had placed on here for 2025, and so I just moved number 17 up to my top priority and number 3 down to wherever that fell. So they both had a 2025 year on them, and so that's where I was looking. But if it is in a lesser state of preparation and ready to go, I understand. I have other things that I would be happy to prioritize even better. So, I mean, County Road 84 at Arroyo del Rancho all-weather crossing, that would probably be my second priority if it wasn't the Rio and Medio. And if that's ready to go, all power to it. If it's something that we think we're going to go get a RAISE grant for instead of state money, I'm happy to defer to RAISE grants. But I want to, I think that the Rio and Medio project, because we're going to be improving an inaccessible open space, we need to have a more comprehensive plan for the area before we start talking about spending a lot of money into a place that we can't get to.
That's why a PER would be a good thing to do.
But it's not, I don't think the access is part of that, right? The access is a different part of that equation.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Green, typically I would agree with you. I would just say that, we could, based on the scope of the PER, we could incorporate what we would need to have incorporated in the PER. If we could talk about access issues, we could do that under the umbrella of a PER, look at what it would take to get the road widened, as well as access issues to the open space, if that's from a planning preliminary standpoint as well. I mean, it depends on how you want to set the scope. So we request the funding for a preliminary engineering report, and we can set the scope to include access assessments as well, and parking. And that's one of the largest challenges is the narrowness of that road as it winds through the hills, parking or inability to park for the trailhead, and the existing trailhead, as well as any potential future trailhead in that area, I think could all be looked at, holistically under the right scope.
Okay, well, I'll work with you all to hopefully expand the scope just enough to include access to this, because that's a big issue up there. It's not only the road, but it's the parking, right? So there's so many parts of this equation that make that maybe not the ideal open space for a big public investment in open space when there are other opportunities for this. But, okay, and to answer my question, is the all-weather crossing at 84, was that the raise grant that we didn't get? And is that something that we should be prioritizing, or should we just be going for a raise grant again?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, that was part of the raise grant application. We did have a debrief with the raise grant staff, and you participated with that maybe a month and a half or so ago, and got some good feedback on that. I would recommend that we go forward with resubmitting the raise grant application, but we can do things in parallel. So if we don't get all full funding from raise grant, there's whatever other funding sources are available.
Yeah. And sort of to that point, if we funded this thing through this specific bridge or all-weather crossing with state money and pulled that out of the raise grant, that might lower the raise grant request, which was beyond what a raise grant would cover. So I think that would be my priority then, would be to change my number one priority to the County Road 84.
So, Madam Chair, just so I'm clear, Commissioner Green, you're requesting that we take away the Rio en Medio flooding project and replace it with County Road 84 at Arroyo del Rancho all-weather crossing.
Yes, sir.
Understood.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And if that is okay to the board.
It's your district.
Thank you very much. That's right.
As in regards to the raise grant, I care about San Ysidro Crossing. It's not in our top list, but I do know that the Agua Fria Village Association is lobbying the legislators for San Ysidro Crossing because we think it is such a high priority. So it's on the list, it's got a number, so it's fine where it is. I'm just giving you warning.
Warning?
that other people are lobbying for that money besides us.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, the Rancho Viejo ladies will also be lobbying for their senior center. So I'd like to make a motion, if it's okay, that we adopt the resolution identifying Santa Fe County Legislative 2024 capital outlay priorities, including the amendment of Commissioner Green.
And I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Hughes and a second from Commissioner Green under discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed.
Thank you.
Resolution number.
And this will be with changes, correct, Madam Chair?
Yes, with changes.
Okay. So this will be resolution number 2023-117 for item 7C.
Okay, on we go. to item D, which is a resolution identifying general Santa Fe County 2024 legislative priorities. Hachi, welcome. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Yes, so this resolution came about a few years ago where the county manager and staff tried to combine all the different legislative matters which had been spoken about through the past year and condense them into one resolution so that it would be easily recognized and easily provided to legislators during the legislative session so that we could show them in one place and at one time the different priorities that the county had. So for this particular resolution this year, the items contained within it are preservation of county revenue, common sense gun safety regulations, capital outlay reform, support for locally grown food and local agricultural initiatives, and finally, implement evidence-based strategies to reduce alcohol-related harms in our communities. So with that being said, as the legislature proceeds in the new year, if there are particular items that come up or if there are issues not identified within this particular resolution, it's up to the prerogative of the commission to go ahead and put forth any new resolution or support or opposition to any legislation not identified in here or identified in any other resolution that you may need to take action on. So with that, that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you putting together this short list, especially the common sense gun regulations. I think that is incredibly important, and many of these initiatives are things that we have worked on over the last couple of years. Of course, the support for locally grown food and local agriculture initiatives are incredibly important to all of our districts. And with that, I'll go to the other commissioners.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Bustamante?
You go first.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think that the gun common sense gun safety is incredible, and looking for the information around the evidence-based strategies. This is very good. I'm also in great support and hope that we can all do whatever we can to further the locally grown food and local agriculture initiatives. So thank you for this addition to this as well. I have no questions. I just commend you on this comprehensive effort, and thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, thank you.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I like all of these priorities, and of course we've talked about these over the years, and the support for locally grown food and local agriculture initiatives. That means we can help Ms. Roy if she needs help in the legislature when something comes up that is along those lines. So I guess, were there any other questions? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Back to Madam Chair.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too agree with all 5 of these. I think some of them are in fact a little abstract and could be of risk, like capital outlay reform could be something that we might not like, but we'll see. And so one question is about process in a 30-day session. So last year we had a 60-day session and we had lots of time to go over. We probably had 3 or 4 meetings during the session to go over things. But if I look at the calendar, it's really one meeting, right? I mean, by the time we get to the first meeting in February, it's baked, it's done. So we probably have that late January meeting to go over where things are and policy stuff. Has there ever been a special meeting to go over these things because there's some priorities that are coming down the pike, there's some funding things, or is it just sort of a game time and you and the lobbyists will call us and say, you got to come in here and go hustle?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, very good question. If you see the need, I wouldn't see why not. It wouldn't be necessary to hold a special meeting, but to my recollection, I don't recall myself being a special meeting called to address a specific legislative matter.
And I guess most of these, thank you, Hutch. I think most of these may not actually come in terms of policy because this is a budget session. So, but in terms of the one addition that I think is going to be on the governor's call list that is not necessarily on this list, and I wonder if we want to include it, would be support for crime prevention initiatives, whether that is increasing funding for state police forces, or other technological issues that we add that in here because this is becoming a pervasive issue that we're all hearing about. I'm sure all of us are hearing about. And so I'm wondering if that's an amendment to these 5, and this could be a 6th supportive thing, also to sort of encourage the governor to put it on her list.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, I absolutely agree that that would be an item that the governor would put on for her call for this session, upcoming session.
And then, if I may,
So a lot of times, what happens is, things come up, and we do have the last meeting in January, and by then we would know what she's put on the call. I mean, I would hope by then, because it's.
We have to know before they start the meeting, I mean, she can put anything on the call anytime.
Right, but usually they're in the first week or so. And then we support those things that have been put on the call.
I would think that we could be proactive in the sense that we would be ready of support of this.
Especially with crime, for
Yes.
sure. We're all well aware of the fact that there is a serious issue with crime in New Mexico and in Santa Fe County.
And
Madam Chair, in the interest of clarification and assuring that it's in the forefront, because it is one of those absolute, and it just hadn't occurred. Is there opportunity then to put it in here to make sure, even though the governor is going to come to something, it's just sort of miss our day in recognizing that it's important?
Well, the other possibility that Commissioner Green could do is he could write up a resolution, and we could pass it at the December 12th
Okay.
on crime, and add that in as one of our priorities. We're not done. This is just we're doing a general resolutions of many of the things that we want to support, and part of the reason that they're kind of vague and general is so that our lobbyists and Hutch and all of us can stand up in committee meetings and say that these are things that we support. So,
Madam Chair, I totally agree, and I'd be happy to do that if this resolution can't be amended right now, but we're sitting here debating it right now. We could add literally a line that says support for crime prevention legislation and funding.
Madam Chair,
yes.
One thing I just want to mention, because there's no question, crime is an issue, but these aren't just words. This is support for where we want them to put their money. So we can list 20 things that are important, and it dilutes the emphasis. And I'm saying that because we've pulled out 2 things, including the gun safety and the reduction of harm for alcohol-related things, which are indirectly related, directly and indirectly, depending on which one you're talking about, to what you're talking about at the general, of crime reduction. And so it's not at all that I disagree with you. I just, frankly, I had my druthers, I wouldn't put as much money, because crime, interestingly, crime prevention is seldom like putting more money to school programs, or more money to youth diversion programs. It's more money, and all respect to the sheriff, our sheriff is incredible, and what we do is incredible. But it's funding enforcement, not prevention. And so frankly, I would leave it this, because it's going to take money from things it's going to, what extra things are going to take money from these things?
If I may. I don't know that it is necessarily only money, even though this is a budget cycle this year, because crime prevention initiatives are probably going to be on the call. Some of those could be bail reform, right? The re-reforming bail reform that happened a few years ago, so maybe catch and release doesn't happen. And so we'll have a chance to support these things later as they come forward. But anyway, I would love to see that we are in support of crime prevention initiatives at the legislature. But if you think that's something that I need to do separately, then.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, if I may just share, in 3 communities in District 3, the issue of coverage and making sure even just basic sheriff's response, having enough people in the field, both one out of Edgewood, one person, like literally one unit in Edgewood supporting the town, which is very difficult for Edgewood, and they have called to ask for more support in this area, specifically Los Cerrillos, or Cerrillos. They have had issues of other things that we've tried to capture in other ways with the methamphetamine problem. There is a meth house that we can't get enough, and again, the coverage of our department is not there, and then widely publicized in the community of La Cienega. There have been several houses, so I think saying that here, saying it again in a resolution, it has been something that is pretty evident, and if it takes, we have a lot of money right now, so it's not one of those years that I would be really worried about I'm not saying that it wouldn't take away from, but we have a lot of money right now. If there are ways to assure that there are more, pardon the cliche, boots on the ground, let's say it whenever and however we can to assure that these communities have the support, because enforcement is has been the leading issue in District 3.
Madam Chair?
I have no objection. I mean, those are good points.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, I think there's a lot of good ideas around this, and maybe it's appropriate for it to be brought back in December as a resolution with a little more specificity of what kind of crime prevention we're talking about, rather than just adding a sentence that, because they could come up with crime prevention, as I think Commissioner Hamilton was alluding to, that we didn't like. And so maybe we should be, listing just a few of the things that we would want to support. And that way we could think about it a little bit without holding up today's meeting too much.
I agree. Oh, I thought you acknowledged me, Madam Chair. I'm so sorry.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yeah, but in all fairness, these are just one sentences too, one sentence each also. So I mean, I said my piece, but what Commissioner Bustamante said also makes a lot of sense. There are places where there are real needs. So.
Say it once, say it twice, say it 3 times, right? We need to, if this is our shot to do it in a 1 sentence, that's fine. I'll work on a resolution, and you may not agree with the resolution for 2 weeks from now. It's totally fine, right?
Yeah, I have no objection to adding something.
Thank you. If it's possible to add a line that says, maybe it's common sense crime reduction strategies, whatever, common sense means.
Madam Chair, if you're amenable to a motion, I would make the motion that we would accept it unless there's more discussion about any of the other issues, but that we would accept this. Again, it's well written. I appreciate that it's comprehensive, and with the addition that we would add the line "and crime prevention strategies." If there is any other change in that language, that would be my motion. That we would accept this as written with the addition of something grammatically appropriate regarding crime prevention strategies.
Well, I think we need to define it, because
exactly, the bullet, appropriate crime prevention strategies, no, I'm joking. Appropriate, no, but crime prevention strategies and funding.
It could be a crime prevention strategy that you don't agree with.
It's, yeah,
Effective crime prevention strategies, and then the resolution could be more definitive.
more specific, yeah. And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bustamante, a second by Commissioner Green. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. So, Leandro, you have a little bit of work, or Hutch, somebody out there.
So to be clear, what I heard is we'll be adding a paragraph 6 that just has bolded language, effective crime prevention strategies.
Yes. Thank you, Manager Schaefer. Next, we'll go.
Thank you.
I need a resolution number, please.
Of course, Madam Chair. Item 7D is resolution number 2023-118.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go on to E, which is a resolution supporting New Mexico County's 2024 legislative priorities. County Clerk Office, Catherine Clark. Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. These are the 2024 legislative priorities voted upon by the New Mexico Association of Counties Board of Directors. These were the ones that the affiliates had presented, and then these were voted as the top priorities. You'll see many of these issues and items are repeat from previous years. There is very good materials provided on graphs and how many years. So for instance, Detention Reimbursement Fund, they have graphs going back to 2018. For detention recruitment and retention, you'll notice that Bernalillo County reports a 50% vacancy rate, which as we know is dangerous for prisoners and as well as staff. Prisoner transport and extradition, the state's supposed to pay for it, but they have not created a line item for it. RISE funding is something that would be interesting to start in Santa Fe County, but we have to build the money and capacity to do it, and it's a behavioral health component to statewide funding. Emergency medical services, for instance, I think Rio Arriba County told me they get $1,700, and they told me they spend that on a single call on needles and PPE. So going back to 1978, you'll see on this graph that essentially that we have not done a good job of funding EMS, and we need it, especially for our rural parts of our county. Courthouse funding, this is the classic conflict in the counties versus the state on who should pay. There is the philosophy of the New Mexico Association Counties that it should be a shared funding stream, that we contribute some and the state and the Associated Office of the Courts, Administrative Office of the Courts provides funding, because when the state was founded, you know, we used to have one district judge, and many counties are now struggling to figure out how to fit 6 district judges in a courthouse that was really only designed for one. State health benefits plan, while we didn't get this bill, many of our fellow counties got a surprise bill at the end of last year after they had already expended their budgets at the end of the fiscal year, sort of saying, surprise, you now have to pay this very large amount from Department of Health. And so there is a conflict there on making sure that these funds are paid for by the state legislature and not being back-billed to the counties, especially tiny counties who can't afford a surprise amount of money at the end of the fiscal year. Elected official salary increase. This is due to the fact that we're seeing that deputies, chief deputies, undersheriffs are being paid significantly more than elected officials. This is the same conflict we see at the state legislature. The question is who will serve, who will run if people can't afford essentially to live in the county for which they're serving. This was unanimously supported by several affiliates. Firefighter recruitment and retention. I know this is a problem in Santa Fe County, that we are not seeing large classes of people either volunteering to be a paid firefighter, and we're not seeing folks signing up to be volunteer firefighters. I think our average age of volunteer firefighters is 65, so we need to figure out a way of recruiting and retaining firefighters so that, you know, especially our rural parts of the county have enough firefighter district bodies, essentially, to make sure we fight fire. So these are the priorities of the 2024 legislative session for the New Mexico Association of Counties. You will see nothing on here is new, but it's the thing that we keep going back to the legislature asking them to fund. Does anyone have any questions?
So thank you, Madam Clerk, for being our representative on New Mexico counties. I don't envy you. But
I enjoy it.
I am glad. We are glad that you enjoy it.
I like a little debate now and then.
And we are glad that you are there. And I appreciate you bringing forward this resolution
Yes.
and presenting it. I recognize that is an important part of the person who we elect as our representative on the New Mexico County. So I want to give you credit for doing your job.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hughes.
I'm going to guess that we're all in favor of this and go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the resolution supporting the New Mexico County's 2024 legislative priorities.
And I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Hughes and a second from Commissioner Green. Under discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Deputy Clerk, may I please have a resolution, and thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you for making it easy on me.
Madam Chair, item 7E is resolution number 2023-119.
Okay, we're going to 7F, which is a resolution identifying Santa Fe County 2024 legislative priorities for affordable housing. Welcome, Jordan.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, good evening. Staff are here today to present a resolution identifying Santa Fe County's 2024 legislative priorities for affordable housing as proposed by staff. As this Commission is well aware, the lack of affordable housing across the housing spectrum is a significant need in Santa Fe County as well as the state at large. And staff have identified 8 areas in which we would urge the New Mexico legislature and governor to enact legislation during the 2024 legislative session. These 8 areas include adequately funding the New Mexico Housing Trust Fund, which is a significant source of gap funding for many low-income housing tax credit and other affordable projects within the state. Increasing funding for the state linkages program in the amount of $5 million per year, which provides housing assistance and case management services for households with mental disabilities. Funding support for the Santa Fe County Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Prevention of source of income discrimination for rentals, which would apply in a number of areas, but specifically to tenants in the market trying to lease a unit with voucher subsidy. Prohibiting unreasonable annual rental rate increases for renters within the state. Authorizing courts to delay eviction proceedings for a reasonable period while tenants actively pursue rental assistance from programs for which they appear to be eligible. Increasing transparency and accountability in landlord-tenant agreements. And lastly, fund strategic workforce housing for critical employees in difficult-to-fill positions such as first responders, teachers, and healthcare workers. Staff believe that these initiatives would aid the county in its ability to effectuate the development of affordable housing locally and address general concerns that have been provided to staff by county constituents over the course of the last year. And with that, I will conclude my presentation and stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I do have a question. It's just really a question that's probably been discussed before, but when we have something like the term unreasonable, is that it clearly leaves the determination of what is reasonable to the legislators, and is that based on some type of national standard for what would be reasonable or unreasonable?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bustamante, there is some variability there, and I do not believe that there's a national standard or a precedent that's been set. Some areas have set it based off a percentage of income growth, others based off inflationary factors. So there would still be some determination and some analysis that would have to be done in order to make a proposal as to what unreasonable would be, though there is no baseline standard that I'm aware of currently.
Any other question? Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate the incorporation of item 8, the Fund Strategic Workforce Housing. And I do note, and I wonder if this is something that we need to do separately from this, which is there are other strategic workforce housing initiatives in Santa Fe County and in neighboring counties The school district in both Santa Fe Public School District and in the Pojoaque School District have received specific money to this, and I'm wondering if we need to add and request an ICIP number so that we could have a bucket for, if we do get money, that they would have a place to put it. Because if we don't have that bucket, they won't put money into it. And so I'm in support of all of this, but this is more of a preparation for, hey, wow, we're getting money, where do they put it? And so maybe we need to actually go put that onto our ICIP list between now and the session, so that if somebody does decide it's a great idea, that we have a place for them to put it in that bucket.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, I understand where you're coming from, and part of what we're doing now is looking at project-specific initiatives that the county can undertake specific to workforce housing, and certainly when a project, or at least a preliminary design for a project was identified, that would certainly be brought into the fold through scoping and an ICIP process, but generally that is something we can definitely look at.
If I may follow up, so in the case of both Santa Fe Public Schools and Pojoaque, they got money before they had a project, right? So they went and they said, we want $1.5 million, and they got 1.2 million. And so that didn't fund the whole thing, but that funded at least a good start on some things. So again, I just wonder if we need to do that homework ahead of time to be, whether we get money or not, we won't get money if we don't, we can say we want it, but if we don't have a place for them to put it, we won't necessarily get it unless we can very specifically point, this is where you can put that pledge for that money. So.
If I could, Madam Chair and Commissioner, and I think there are multiple ways to approach this topic, but this can be a launching point, not for specific Santa Fe County capital outlay request, but an appropriation by the legislature of a larger bucket of money that could be deployed statewide. So for example, if you think about law enforcement recruitment and retention, we didn't get specific outlays of money for Santa Fe County. That was attacked, if you will, at the macro level, where there was a fund set up that could fund those initiatives, and Santa Fe County and other governmental entities could apply. And so I think, in part, the thinking of putting it here in this way was to support that as an overarching strategy on behalf of the state, as opposed to trying to piecemeal individual projects at various stages of development. So either can work, but I think in putting this together, as Jordan and I discussed it, this was more about trying to nudge the legislature to, again, stop the piecemealing of appropriations and put significant chunks of money in large pots that can then be deployed in a rational way throughout the state. So just provide that context.
That sounds great. Thank you for clarifying.
And Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, to Manager Schaefer's point, that is sort of how we looked at it, very similar to what happens on the federal level in terms of targeted housing programs, right, where the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development identifies a need for housing specific for persons with disabilities or for veterans. It's at that point in time that a bucket is put together for individual entities to come after targeted funding that is very specific for that subset of the population.
Wonderful. Thank you. With that, I will make a motion to adopt a resolution identifying Santa Fe County's 2024 legislative priorities for affordable housing.
And I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Hughes. Under discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, Madam Clerk, can I please have a resolution number?
Item 7F is resolution number 2023-120.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to a resolution identifying Santa Fe County 2024 legislative priorities for community development. Paul Olafson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Paul Olafson with Community Development. And again, similar to the previous resolutions you've examined, this is a kind of a broader list of items for the legislature to consider with regards to community development and various aspects of the community development department. We've put together this list of 8 priorities, and I'll read them out for the record. Number one is to adequately fund the New Mexico Tourism Department, including sustained enhancement of the cooperative marketing programs and support for local marketing campaigns. Number two, provide local governments with broadband planning money, matching funds for federal grant opportunities, and capital outlay funding for broadband projects. Number three, provide funding for local governments for projects pursuant to the Local Economic Development Act, or LEDA. Number four, adequately fund the New Mexico Economic Development Department, including by increasing grant funding opportunities through its Arts and Cultural Division, and Outdoor Recreation Division. Number five, increase funding for the Job Training Incentives Program, or JTIP. Number six, maintain the competitiveness of film incentives that benefit the Santa Fe region and makes film production expenditures on tribal land eligible for film tax credits. Number seven, fund grant writing services for local governments statewide, including through the North Central Economic Development District. And finally, number eight, increase support for the transfer of technology developed in laboratories to businesses. And those are the recommendations, and then with that, I would stand for questions.
Questions from the board? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Paul, and I appreciate updating this with some specifics for JTIP and for LEDA. I think those are those statewide project things, and for including the grant writing services for North Central, because we have been a beneficiary of that, and so have the other 7 or 12 jurisdictions that that work under North Central. I think I'll keep it in here for now, but I think tomorrow there's going to be an announcement that tribal lands will be eligible for tax rebates for film. But I'll save that for my comments from the dais. But thank you very much, and I'm in support of all of these.
Madam Chair, my question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Bustamante.
My question with regard to number 4, whether or not it if you feel that it captures our interest in an arts commission, adequately fund New Mexico Economic Development Department, or would we add a 9 that would say provide funding for county and municipality arts commissions, but something that recognizes that there was legislative funding put forth last session, and that there are opportunities now for communities to access funds for the development of those initiatives. So do you think that 4 captures that, or because that's very, very general, or we say something more specific about capturing the interest of arts commissions statewide?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bustamante, I think it is broad, but I think it's in the same tenor as on the previous item, where it's more of a focus on getting the statewide support, and that if there was a specific request or direction to fine-tune that language, it could be made through a legislator or a group of legislators. But in my opinion, number 4 would cover that. However, of course, it's the prerogative of the board to either amend number 4 or add an additional one.
Madam Chair.
I think it addresses it in the sense that it says to support that and also to increase the funding opportunities, the grant funding. So I think it has the 2 supportive aspects: one, to support that division, and the grant opportunities that we would then potentially be able to apply for, especially because we are now going to set up our own arts commission.
Council, yep. Or commission. Council or commission, one or the other.
Madam Chair, you feel that it's captured?
I think it's adequate for now. I'll go with the adequately. Okay, can I have a motion for approval?
I will move to approve the resolution identifying Santa Fe County's 2024 legislative priorities for community development.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Green, the second from Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, may I please have a resolution number?
Of course, Madam Chair. Item 7G is resolution number 2023-121.
Okay, next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next, we will have 7H, a resolution identifying Santa Fe County 2024 legislative priorities for environmental sustainability and climate action.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Jacqueline Beam, Community Development Department. The resolution before you identifies the Santa Fe County 2024 legislative priorities for environmental sustainability and climate action as the following, and I will summarize. Number one, to advance environmental sustainability, community resilience, and climate action, promote water and energy conservation and/or management, and improve sustainability at the state and local level, provide economic access and benefits for low-income households to use cleaner forms of energy for electricity and transportation, and/or increase the energy efficiency of their residences, incentivize EV ownership and usage, promote water conservation and water planning, advance the sustainability and climate action goals of the county, provide adequate funding and support for state departments tasked with implementing climate policies and programs and protecting the environment, support the prioritization of funding and funding mechanisms for infrastructure projects, energy projects, and economic development opportunities that enhance local communities and advance community resiliency and climate action, provide capital outlay for facility energy efficiency improvements, make property pollinator friendly, including planting pollinator friendly, that's a lot of P's, sorry, regionally appropriate plants, and avoiding the use of pesticides known to kill pollinators. Also improve the New Mexico energy grid, including use for renewables and the ability to operate independently from the national grid. Create a program at the state level comparable to the Solarized Santa Fe program to assist individuals with questions about and funding of solar installations in homes. And finally, the resolution expresses the board's support for comprehensive climate legislation that codifies greenhouse emission targets at the state level for 2050, the state's adoption of the Advanced Clean Cars and Advanced Clean Trucks rule, banning single-use plastic and polystyrene products within the state, including an extended producer responsibility or an EPR law for packaging, the creation and enactment of surface water rules, and a green amendment to the New Mexico Constitution. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline. This is a great resolution. Everything on here, I support 100%. Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, Commissioner Hanson, or Chair Hanson. I agree 100%, but I'm going to add a 10% more, which is something that has come up a few times here from the dais recently, which is a support of preservation of agricultural land, because there could be some initiative at the legislature that might set aside money for preservation of agricultural land, and it is part of our sustainability portfolio of initiatives, and I would hope that everybody up here would be in support of that. So,
don't you think that was in the last resolution on agriculture?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm not sure if that is also in the growth management priorities or...
Right, I thought...
Madam Chair, I think there's always opportunity to be redundant when it comes to trying to make a point. And
if we missed it?
I think that it also puts forth our value of agriculture as a sustainability issue. It could come up in an economic development one, for that matter. It applies in a lot of areas. It could come up in housing. I mean, it has to do with food. So I would say that entering it anywhere and everywhere it applies might be wise.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think you're right. I think we did already pass that, because it says, number 4 in our general priorities says support for farm preservation programs. I mean, that's preserving the land, right? And then food policy councils, educational outreach, food hubs, food depots, farm-to-school programs, farm-to-seniors programs, farm-to-table resolutions, farmers markets, and other reliably local grown food and local agricultural initiatives. I'm not objecting to adding it to the other one. I just think we have already covered that.
And I will also say that this is not directly under sustainability, Jacqueline's priorities. She has many priorities, and she's already stretched very thin. We need to get her more staff. And so for this year, it's in our priorities. When we're at the legislature, we can lobby for it. It's already there, and I think that the resolution is great the way it is.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, this doesn't necessarily put more work on Jacqueline. It just says we acknowledge it as a sustainability issue. But that being said,
Thank you. As such, I will then just say I make a motion to approve a resolution identifying Santa Fe County's 2024 legislative priorities for environmental sustainability and climate action.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And thank you, Jacqueline, for all your great work. We are
Thank you,
grateful.
Madam Chair. Commissioners.
May I please have a resolution number?
So last but not least, item 7H is resolution number 2023-122.
Okay, great. So we're at 122 resolutions for the year so far. Next, we'll go on. Thank you, staff, everybody, for being here. Next, we'll go on to presentations. I believe, is our presentation going to be via WebEx or?
Actually, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Attorney Young and I will be tag teaming it.
Okay.
At this time, the presentation should be projected on your individual screens as well as available via WebEx for those who are watching and participating remotely. For some of you, this is a refresh on a presentation that was previously given. For others, it may be an initial overview or introduction to a variety of public financing tools that are available to the county and other governmental entities. We are giving you this presentation in advance of several applications and petitions that we believe you will be considering in the not-so-distant future. Specifically, we are in receipt of a petition for the creation of a public improvement district for Arroyo Hondo de Santa Fe, or Oshara Phase 2. In addition, we have received, I believe, 2 separate applications for the county to issue conduit financing bonds for multifamily residential projects that would allow those projects to borrow money at favorable rates, assuming that they receive an allocation of capacity to become qualified private activity bonds. So again, this isn't to make you an expert. It's not to necessarily, it's not to ask you for any particular reaction to projects that will be coming forward to you. It's rather just to try and provide a framework so that when those projects do come forward, some of the basic information you'll already have back of mind. So wanted to, again, sort of start with some similarities between county improvement districts, public improvement districts, tax increment development districts, and industrial revenue bonds. They're tools to finance infrastructure, enhance services, and/or economic development. and they've involved the exercise of legislative discretion by the Board of County Commissioners. So nobody has the right to demand that the board, create a county improvement district or a public improvement district, et cetera. There are some differences as between the tools. The SIDs and PIDs, the county improvement districts and public improvement districts, involve additional special levies or taxes on private property, and TIDs, in fact, may impose a property tax. PIDs and TIDs require owner and qualified elector, if any, approval, and PIDs and TIDs are actually political subdivisions separate from the county, though the board may govern them. TIDs result in taxes that are attributable to growth being diverted from their normal recipients to the TID, and industrial revenue bonds result in property taxes and some gross receipts taxes being foregone altogether unless recouped through a payment in lieu of taxes, since the county owns the property and project being constructed. What we could have added to this list would be that, bonds, conduit financing for multifamily housing, again, is another tool that would not necessarily or actually result in the county owning the underlying project. But again, those bonds are discussed later in the presentation as they're issued pursuant to either the Municipal Housing Law and or the Private Activity Bond Act as supplemental to those authorities. Sorry, I'm trying to move forward and.
It's not being projected anyway.
So as I said at the beginning, this is really a high-level overview only. The presentation's not all-inclusive. We're simply trying to provide a framework for projects that may come forward. If Jeff or more aptly I screw anything up and there's a conflict between what we say and what's in the presentation and what's in the law and the policies, then obviously the law and the policies control. County improvement districts, we set forth the authority for those. It's both state law as well as our Sustainable Land Development Code, and we have a specific resolution that adopts CID policy and procedures. The purposes, and these aren't all inclusive, are to finance the construction, acquisition, repair, or maintenance of authorized improvements that benefit the property included in the improvement district, to finance public infrastructure to bring the level of service in existing communities to current county standards, and to reduce the cost to developers of meeting the SLD's sustainable design and improvement requirements by placing a proportionate share of the cost of on-site improvements on the future occupants or residents of the development project. So CIDs can be formed in a variety of different ways. Can be board initiated, through the provisional order method, or you can have SIDs that are created pursuant to a petition filed by property owners. In terms of the petition method, it requires a petition from owners of 66 2/3% or more of the total assessed valuation of the property, which is proposed for inclusion in a CID, exclusive of any land owned by the United States or the state of New Mexico, as well as a preliminary application containing, among other things, a description of the CID and its boundaries, a general description of the improvements, and the estimated construction cost of the improvements and anticipated completion time. The Public Works Department Director makes report to the BCC, and the BCC decides at an initial review either to reject the petition or to form a review committee. If the board decides to move past the initial review, it forms a review committee by resolution. That review committee has a variety of tasks, including making a report to the BCC and recommendation concerning the final application. The final application that's required to form a CID has to contain a detailed description of the improvements, a detailed estimate of the cost of the improvements, a description of each property to be assessed or against which an improvement district property tax is to be imposed, the estimated amount of the assessment against each tract or parcel of land, and the estimated benefit to each parcel. When presented with the final application, the board can agree to pay the cost of improvements in whole or in part, assess the cost of the improvements against the benefiting tracts or parcels of land, and or impose with voter approval an improvement district property tax and improve district general obligation bonds. When presented with a final application, again, nobody has a right to the creation of a CID. The board may reject it. It may create the CID and pay the cost of the improvement without an assessment or property tax, or move forward with a preliminary hearing on the creation of the county improvement district. At the preliminary hearing, it's required that if any part or all of the cost of the improvement sought to be constructed as authorized is to be assessed against the benefiting tracts or parcels of land. Again, hearing is required in those instances. Property owners may contest the proposed assessment or tax, the regularity of the proceedings related to the improvement, the benefits of the improvement, or any other matter related to the improvement district. And the board may not assess the tract or parcel of land an amount greater than the actual benefit to the tract or parcel of land by reason of the enhanced value of the tract or parcel of land as a result of the improvement as ascertained at the hearing. The BCC's legislative decision to create a CID after preliminary hearing is subject to challenge in district court. So, if the board determines to go forward with the creation of a CID, it is required to have an assessment hearing at which it would determine the amount of the assessment levied against each parcel in the CID. And again, property owners may object at that point in time relative to the amount of the assessment, and the BCC's decision could be challenged in district court. Any assessments that are in fact approved are liens on property and may be foreclosed on. Before I move on to the public improvement districts, I'll just make a note that we've had, that I can recall, 2 county improvement district applications that have been submitted to the county. One was for, I believe, a wastewater infrastructure in the La Cienega or La Cienega area, and I don't have it in front of me. The other was for the paving of Spur Ranch Road in the El Dorado area. In both instances, there were a variety of potential issues, but it was the cost of the infrastructure vis-a-vis the assessment that would be necessary to support that as measured against the increased value to the parcels. So given the, again, increasing cost of infrastructure, that has proven to be a limiting factor in those 2 cases, since the relationship between the assessment and the increase in value didn't pencil, I believe, in both of those cases. Public improvement districts are another means by which on-site and off-site public infrastructure can be financed. In addition, it's a means by which enhanced services within the PID can be provided. Again, these purposes aren't all inclusive, but the SLDC also provides that a purpose is to reduce the cost to developers of meeting the SLDC's sustainable design and improvement requirements by placing a proportionate share of the cost of on-site improvements on the future occupants or residents of the development project. When you have PIDs that are being proposed, our policies require a pre-application meeting with the County PID Review Committee. And you have to have a petition and an application to support the creation of a PID. The petition must be signed by the owners of at least 25% of the real property by assessed valuation proposed to be included in the PID. And the application has to contain a detailed description of the types of public infrastructure improvements or enhanced services to be provided, a feasibility study, and a description of the applicant's professional experience and evidence demonstrating its financial capacity to undertake the development that's associated with the public infrastructure, enhanced services, and private development. So the PID Review Committee makes a report to the BCC. The board has an opportunity to take initial action on the petition application, to either deny it or adopt a resolution declaring its intention to form a public improvement district, and to hold a public hearing unless that public hearing is waived. The board has to act within 90 days or the petition is deemed to have been accepted by the board, and there's a duty imposed by state law to move forward with the adoption of a resolution and hold a public hearing. The general plan is required before a resolution is adopted, and that general plan must include a map depicting the boundaries of the district and the real property proposed to be included in the district, a general description of the anticipated improvements and their locations, general cost estimates, and other matters. If a hearing is required, a person claiming an interest in real property within the PID may object on a variety of grounds, including that their property would not be substantially benefited directly or indirectly from the public infrastructure improvements or enhanced services, that the district should generally not be formed, or that the general plan should be modified. The board's final decision on the petition and application, again, the board has the legislative discretion not to form a PID, but if it does determine that the district should be formed, it shall adopt a resolution ordering that the district be formed, deleting any property determined not to be directly or indirectly benefited by the district, or modifying the general plan, and then ordering that the formation determination be conducted and an election be held on the question whether to form the district. If not all owners sign the petition, there's an election of owners of the property, and there would have to be 3/4 majority vote in favor of formation. If there are any qualified electors, an election would have to be held, and 3/4 a majority of those qualified electors would have to vote for formation. But there are streamlined procedures authorized if all owners sign the petition and there are no qualified electors. And as a practical matter, I think where you've seen public improvement districts most recently used statewide, they're on vacant land. And these are PIDs that are put forward by developers at the time that they're going through the development process. So there are no qualified electors because the land is vacant. They own all the land, so there's no need for an election. So again, these are developer-driven applications and petitions that are brought forward before there are any affected individuals, because no one lives on the land at the time that the board's making these determinations. Important to remember that if created, the PIDs are political subdivisions of the state, so they're governmental entities. Our policy, is that the Board of County Commissioners will act as a district board. So you'll have additional meetings that you'll get to attend and further hats that you'll get to wear should you create a public improvement district. The financing for either enhanced services or public infrastructure, the county, because they would be contributing to another political subdivision, can contribute county funds. There could be general obligation bonds approved by owner's determination and qualified electors, special levies and special levy bonds, as well as user, landowner, and other fees and charges. So again, all of these, with the exception of county contributions, would be coming from future inhabitants of the property. This is really important, and I'm not going to go through the small print in great detail. Suffice it to say that state law requires pretty robust disclosures to private individuals who are potentially offering to purchase land that exists within a public improvement district. And again, the idea is to ensure that someone is buying property within a public improvement district, understands what they're buying into in terms of that additional governmental entity, as well as the fact that they're being obligated to pay additional property taxes and/or special levies that may be imposed by the district board. PIDs can ultimately be dissolved. There are conditions precedent that have to be met, which includes that the improvements that are owned by the district have been conveyed to the county in which the district is located, that there aren't any outstanding financial obligations, or that the county has agreed to assume them, and that all obligations of the district pursuant to any development agreement have been satisfied. I'm going to, quickly go through tax increment development districts. I don't believe there have been many of these that have been created recently that I'm aware of statewide, and we don't have any such proposals that are coming through the door. But as I indicated at the beginning of the presentation, this is a mechanism by which you're taking revenue and tax revenue that would naturally be imposed on any development and diverting it from governmental recipients that would otherwise receive it to the TID. And so the idea in simple terms is if the property tax on vacant land was X, and now the property tax on the developed land is Y, that delta could go to the TID as opposed to the governments who would otherwise share in it. There's a lot of similarities between the creation of PIDs and TIDs, including the board holding public hearings and making findings as necessary. And again, there are provisions for streamlined processes in the event that there are no qualified electors and all owners sign the petition. The governance and financing of TIDs are a little bit different, as indicated, because TIDs are a mechanism by which taxes that would otherwise accrue due to the development and go to the county general fund or elsewhere is instead redirected to the TID in order to fund the infrastructure that is the subject of the TID plan. TIDs too can be terminated by resolution of the district board under similar circumstances. And I've been talking a while now, so if Jeff wants to take over and be more charming and entertaining than I have been, I will give him that opportunity.
Thank you, Greg. And it is a sort of dry subject, yeah. So we understand that, and full of acronyms. And so we have a few left. I don't know if anyone has any questions at this point. We'll keep rolling. All right. So internal revenue bonds, IRBs, the authority for those is the County Industrial Revenue Bond Act. The purposes, which are not all inclusive, to promote industry and trade by inducing manufacturing, industrial, and commercial enterprises to locate or expand in the state, and promote the local health and general welfare by inducing nonprofit corporations engaged in healthcare services and other sort of mass transit or transportation activities, industrial parks, headquarters, and research and development activities to locate or expand in this state. So it is a useful tool from the economy side. Not a whole lot of IRBs come our way, but they do occasionally come our way, and I think we may be going through a cycle of those. So to do an IRB, you need an application, including a project plan, and there's a project review team that's formed, including folks from the county manager's office and appointees as designated by the county manager. The committee reviews the criteria specified in our IRB ordinance, 1998-01. It's a fairly old ordinance, but still applies today, and must include project use and design, economic benefits, project feasibility. Then this team will make recommendations to the board. There's notice to county assessor and property taxing authorities regarding those. One important piece of this is the inducement resolution. So if the board determines to move forward with the IRBs, it will adopt an inducement resolution just stating the intent of the board to issue bonds under the authority of the act upon satisfaction of all the applicable land use and development requirements. And as Greg mentioned earlier, IRBs are conduit financing. So it's kind of an interesting concept that the debt is issued for the benefit of a private entity. The debt is not an obligation of the county and doesn't give rise to liability of the county, and it would be stated on the bond that way. Debt is repaid from revenue pledged from the private entity as part of the project. IRBs primarily provide tax relief to the private entity. For the life of the IRBs, project property is transferred to the county, and the county leases the property to the private entity. So the county-owned property piece is exempt, of course, from property taxes because the county owns that. The lease to the private entity is exempt from property taxes, and the private entity also does not have to pay governmental or GRT tax on equipment purchases, so there is that tax benefit there. There's payment in lieu of taxes and may be negotiated as part of the transaction. There's some actual mandates there for particular electricity generation or transmission facilities. It represents payments to designated taxing authorities, public school districts, for example, in lieu of the property taxes they would have received for the IRBs. The next subject is a little bit more broader in its application of private activity bonds in general. And we will be seeing applications for private activity bonds coming with certain projects. There is a Private Activity Bond Act that has requirements, as well as the county ordinance I mentioned earlier, which is 1998-01, has requirements related to it. But the idea is really, I think, coming from the federal tax code when it comes to private activity bonds. There is a particular section of the Internal Revenue Code, and as you see in that definition, a private activity bond is any bond that is qualified private activity bond under the Internal Revenue Code. So that's sort of the origination of that, but it's also codified in statute. The types of private activity bonds could include mortgage revenue bonds, qualified residential rental projects such as multifamily housing, small issue industrial development bonds, and a variety of exempt facilities such as solid waste and hazardous waste facilities. In terms of starting out with the private activity bond, you have to go to the State Board of Finance to set a volume cap. There's a request for allocation that goes to Board of Finance. That's really sort of the beginning stages of this. It's kind of a unique process where the volume cap is set. State law specifies the allocation procedures for both state agencies and non-state agencies, and the county is a non-state agency per the statute. So there's a certain allocation that can go to the county, and each calendar year the allocations are set at the Board of Finance at the December meeting. So you might have people coming in December trying to get on the Board of Finance sort of agenda for the volume cap to be set. And if they miss that, then there's you essentially have to wait another year for that. But there are, two main purposes for that cap. There's a housing side of it, could be single family or multifamily, or this other category, which could include small issue and exempt facilities. Exempt facilities being those, waste water and other types of sewage projects. Again, private activity bonds, they start out with a application, project plan, et cetera. Project review team is appointed, and they essentially follow the same IRB type structure when it comes to those with the inducement resolution. And again, private activity bonds are conduit financing. So that's issued for the benefit of the private entity. That is not an obligation of the county. Debt is repaid from revenue pledged from the private entity. I think our last slide on this is multifamily housing projects. Again, we could be seeing these. They require submittal of particular information to the project team for review, and those are listed there. There are certain aspects of this that are unique, which is sort of like meeting the housing needs of elderly or the low or moderate income family housing needs in the immediate area. Other sort of HUD requirements. So you can read those in that particular the section for requirements, but that is our findings the BCC will have to ultimately make. So I think that's the end of our slide.
The only thing I would add relative to the private activity bond discussion, and thank you very much, Jeff, for presenting that aspect of the financing tool presentation. And forgive me if I'm stating the obvious, but when governmental entities such as the county issues debt for governmental purposes, the interest on that debt is exempt from federal income tax. That's the tax-advantaged nature of the financing. So all other things being equal, people will charge the county less interest to lend us money because they're not paying tax on the interest. The private activity, generally speaking, given that benefit, if the county issues bonds for private activity, and this is a very simplified version, I hope that Peter Franklin's not listening because it would make any remaining hair that he has fall out. But if it's for private activity and it's not qualified, then the interest becomes taxable. And that's a bad thing and something that we take great pains to ensure doesn't happen in our own debt. For the private activity bonds, there's a feature of the federal law that allows them to be considered quote-unquote qualified private activity bonds. And that means that they're for a purpose that the federal government has decided they would like to subsidize by exempting the interest from federal income tax. And so in the context of multifamily development, it's just a means by which a project can borrow money at a reduced rate because those projects would get the same tax treatment that the county would have on its own bonds for governmental purposes. But as Jeff described, given that benefit, they allocate a certain amount of capacity for such projects, I think, to each state, and then the state divvies it up further amongst entities, and that's why we would have to go to the Board of Finance. So I just wanted to explain a bit more the economics of why an entity would come in and make that request and what the significance is of those projects being determined to be qualified private activity bonds.
Madam Chair.
I see there's a couple people who have their hands raised. I don't know who was first. Commissioner Hughes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my question will be short anyway. If an affordable housing developer wants to use the industrial revenue bonds in order to get the exemption from property tax, are they allowed to use, I assume they're allowed to use other funding, they don't just have to use the IRBs, or is there a certain percentage of the funding? In other words, could they do a $10 million project and take out a $1 industrial revenue bond just to get rid of the property tax, or what are the limits around that?
Again, we would have to, the question assumes, and we would have to confirm that IRBs would be appropriate for multifamily housing. And I don't think Jeff wants to offer a definitive opinion on that. That's something we would work with our bond counsel on to assure that it would be appropriate. But generally speaking, I think the short answer is no. There's no minimum amount of outstanding debt that has to exist in order for a project to continue to be exempt from, property taxes. And so I think that's the short answer to the question. But again, the premise of whether or not IRBs could be issued for multifamily housing, we'll leave that conversation for another day.
Okay, but we do expect some of the multifamily projects to apply for them, right?
We expect them to apply for conduit financing pursuant to the Municipal Housing Law and the Private Activity Bond Act. I don't know that they're requesting industrial revenue bonds and that the county will own the project.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Bustamante?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have any examples of some good projects in any of the categories over the last, even decade maybe? And when I say good, beneficial, things people would know about, made a difference?
I'm not familiar. I don't believe any PIDs have been created in Santa Fe County. I believe that county improvement districts were created, one or more, in order to finance some of the infrastructure associated with Rancho Viejo. And I can get you further details, Commissioner Bustamante, but I believe Richards, as well as some of the water infrastructure, was paid for pursuant to levies imposed on the county improvement district. So that's one example of a project that comes to mind. Industrial revenue bonds, I believe, I know the board authorized the issuance of industrial revenue bonds for an expansion of the Santa Fe Studios project. Ultimately, the owners of Santa Fe Studios decided not to move forward at that time with the project, but that was an example of recent activity by the board to approve the issuance of industrial revenue bonds. I believe if you go back further in time, industrial revenue bonds may have been issued to fund the construction of ATC, the charter school, Academy for the Classics, Arts and the Classics. But in any event, those were the examples that I can think of top of mind.
Madam Chair, I know, to give an example, the Las Sequoias project, a couple blocks from here over on Old Taos Highway, used through the city, used an industrial revenue bond to finance that.
That wasn't ours. That was the city. Yeah. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to, thank you for the presentation. I know it's kind of dry, but I think it is incredibly important to hear it a couple times because, as you said in the beginning, this is something that will probably come in front of us and that we're going to have to grapple with. So thank you. Okay, next, matters of public concern. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make comments on matters of public concern? Is there anyone online, Daniel?
Madam Chair, there are no users online.
Okay, so I'm going to close matters of public concern and I'm going to go on to matters from the county manager.
No additional updates other than to remind the board of two upcoming special events. The special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners on Thursday to discuss potential amendments to the STR ordinance. Again, that's a study session to give staff conceptual direction that will form the basis of any amendments to the STR ordinance. And then in addition, we do have our legislative dinner reception scheduled for Thursday, December 7th at the Nancy Rodriguez Center. So I did want to remind the board of both those events, which should be on your calendar. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to matters from the County Commission and other elected officials. Commission issues and comments. I'm going to start with Commissioner Green.
Madam Chair, let me pull up my notes. Yesterday we had a little event and supportive housing event up in Espanola to work with the folks from the Vista del Rio development. And as I alluded to earlier in the Housing Authority meeting, we've received some interesting and good news, and I can't share it with you, but I'd be happy to tell you. Can't share it with you. There'll be a press release, and there'll be more details, but it's not all doom and gloom, and Commissioner Hughes is still on the edge of his seat. So, but there is some good news on that. On some other good news, and I alluded to it slightly earlier with the when we were talking about legislative priorities. We met with the leaders at Tax and Rev, or some of the policy lawyers over at Tax and Rev, where they were able to basically reinterpret the enabling legislation for the film rebate tax law, and I can get into the details of how the difference between this is lawyer talk of the difference between the word in and by, two-letter words that make a big difference in a lot of different things, but they were able to interpret the law in a way that will allow for tribal film productions on tribally owned land to be eligible for the tax incentive. So we won the tax equity battle with the state of New Mexico. So as an example, Camel Rock Studios on Tesuque Pueblo film and TV production there will now be eligible for the 30 or 25 to 35% rebate that is that the state gives to productions in other locations. And so we're very excited about that. There is a press release probably coming tomorrow with more information about that, but the biggest beneficiary of this is really going to be Santa Fe County and the Pueblo of Tesuque as a leader in that space. And so you'll hear more about that coming up soon. And thank you, Madam Chair.
That's great. Wonderful for the Pueblos. Commissioner Hughes.
I just have a couple things, Madam Chair. Thank you. A couple of upcoming town halls. One will be about solar energy, and that will be, Leandro and I were just talking, probably later in January, but that will be to help the constituents who keep asking me questions that I can't answer, to get answers to their questions from the growth management and other staff. We've had some couple of really bad accidents on Route 14. I appreciated I got a email just earlier today from our new road person, Maria Molina, about some changes to the intersection at Bonanza Creek Road and Route 14 that should help. But also the constituents out there, which I share with Commissioner Bustamante, have requested a town hall. So we'll probably do a town hall with all our transportation people, including, if we can get them, the State Department of Transportation, to talk about the traffic, because it's an area that's growing very slowly, and yet it is growing, and so there's more traffic. People tend to speed on Route 14. People miss stop signs on Bonanza Creek Road. That's what caused the fatal accident. So anyway, that'll be coming up probably in January as well. And as a result, I don't have to do any town halls in December, so I'm asking my constituents to have fun and email me if they have questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hamilton?
I don't have much of anything other than to say, no, the holidays are, except for specialty town halls, not generally conducive to hours with Hank or coffee with the commission. So, you know, everybody have a good holiday and make direct connections with me as needed.
Thank you. Commissioner Bustamante?
The topic top of the list is the PFAS, and PFOA. I want to thank the county staff who attended the meeting last Saturday, or the Saturday before last, in La Cienega, to a full house of a lot of concerned people. The opportunity we have through the county is to get ahead of the conversation. We have a lot of people sending out facts and ways of addressing it that have very little alignment with either, you know, peer review or making sure that's coming from reliable sources. I've been assured there are a lot of reliable sources out there, but I think our opportunity in really just sort of helping assuage the issue is to get a coordinator on a short contract to help coordinate the information that we get from the state for the people in the community, as well as the conversations that I had even earlier just today with the offices of Congresswoman Leger Fernandez and Ben Ray Lujan, Senator Lujan. So just having an individual who would interface and make sure that we're meeting with some regularity with the community so they can continue. Some people just found out even as recently as this past weekend. So I'm getting a lot of emails and texts about, did you hear that this will take care of it? And I think our opportunity is to really work with the state in helping people understand what's coming ahead. There is a lot of gratitude from the community on the county, as it was stated in the meeting, being the good guy here. So we all recognize that this is a Department of Defense, or potentially a source of risk from the Department of Defense, and that no one really has any authority around us except our representation in DC, and making sure that the community members will address those issues in the most effective, efficient, and cost-effective manner, because with bad information, people start doing things, spending money in ways they don't need to, or possibly not doing things that they probably should. So it's been really the conversation as well as the intersection concern, and looking forward to continued work in those areas and communicating with our constituents. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bustamante. That is really difficult issue. It is a topic that NACO has addressed for many years and has brought resolutions and has requested Congress to enact stronger rules around PFAS, and I think that is some of the work that we really need to have done. I want to remind everybody that there are meetings on 2 Mile Pond on November 30th at the South Side Library at 6 p.m. and then on December 5th at the Transit Rafina Street building. That one is at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you care about what's happening with the river at the top of the river at the reservoirs, and those who care about the river downstream, you are encouraged to come to these meetings and speak out about the effects of 2 Mile Pond on the river. This last weekend and this week at the UN is the meeting on the treaty to ban nuclear weapons. Over half of the world has joined the treaty. Therefore, it is in effect, and it has been in effect for 2 years. This is something I have worked on most of my adult life. I think banning nuclear weapons is the most important, one of the most important things that we can do. And I spoke on the plaza on Sunday at a, medium-sized rally on to ban nuclear weapons, and there was a good 60 to 70 people on the plaza. I want to wish everyone happy holidays, although we will be back here on December 12th. But if you're listening, we want everyone to have a safe and joyous holiday. And that is all I have for the moment, so I'll go on to the county clerk's office. Deputy Clerk, do you have anything to share with us?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to say I don't.
Okay. I don't think there are any other elected officials in the room or online, so I will move on to matters from the county attorney. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'd ask that we go into executive session to discuss threatened or pending litigation in which Santa Fe County is or may become a participant is allowed by Section 10-15-1, H7, NMSA 1978, specifically including, and I think we have 3 items listed, but actually one will take off, which is the second item. So the first item is NRA Aqueous Forming Foams Product Liability Litigation, MDL number 218MM02873RMG, City of Camden versus DuPont, case number 223CV03230RMG in City of Camden versus 3M, case number 323CV03147RMG. Those are in the United States District Court, District of South Carolina, Charleston Division. And then the second item is a potential trespass and ejectment action related to the Santa Fe River Greenway project.
And no, First Judicial District Court.
No, First Judicial District Court, remove that one. Thank you.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Oh, do we need to go into, have a potential action on items discussed in executive session?
Madam Chair, potentially an action item, so
Okay.
I would recommend we come back.
Okay, thank you. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, move we go into executive session to discuss the items as listed by the county attorney.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton, a second from Commissioner Hughes. All those in favor, roll call vote.
All right, Commissioner Camila Bustamante?
Yes.
Commissioner Justin Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Hank Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Anna Hamilton?
Yes.
And Chair Anna Hansen.
Yes. Okay, we are in executive session. I don't know how long we'll be, but probably not too long. So we'll be back.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragog, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Holgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the Correctional Facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Mark Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Mark Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Mark Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the Correctional Facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety.
For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety.
For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the Correctional Facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us. Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety. For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley.
I move we come out of executive session, assuring that the only things we talked about were the things that were listed in the motion to go into session, and no decisions were made.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton, a second
7 years of
from Commissioner Hughes to come out of executive session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Item 12B is potential action on items discussed in executive session. Number 3 are potential trespass and ejection action related to Santa Fe River Greenway project.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to authorize the county attorney's office to pursue a trespass action or injunction against property owned by Santiago and Elvira Trinidad located in Section 32, Township 17 North, Range 9 East relative to the Santa Fe River Greenway project.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hughes, a second from Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, or do I need a roll call vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next is a motion. Where is one? One in the Aquatius foaming foam product liability like litigation.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I move to authorize the county manager to sign requests for exclusion from the settlement classes and file the request for exclusion with the respective notice administrators in 1, in re Aqueous Film Forming Foams Products Liability Litigation, MDL number 2, 18-MN-02873-RMG, City of Camden et al. Versus E.I. DuPont de Nemers and Company et al., case number 2:23-CV-03230-RMG, and number 2, in re Aqueous Film Forming Foams Products Liability Litigation, MDL number 2:18-MN-02873-RMG, City of Camden et al. Versus 3M Company, case number 2:23-CV-03147-RMG.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Hughes. I have a second from Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any final announcements? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Hamilton, a second from Commissioner Green. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good night, everyone. See you on Thursday morning at 9:30.